for Monday the 8th of April. I'm Stephen Ridgway. The layer slider plugin is imperiling a million WordPress sites. Urgent fixes are mandated, according to Cybersecurity News. Truth of the matter is, yes, it is. Yes, there are vulnerabilities, usual sort of stuff. WordPress, despite being one of the most popular web hosting platforms in use around the world, remains problematic to keep up to date and keep on top of security. So definitely, if you are using this particular slider, which by the way is a plugin that's designed to assist with creating websites. The vulnerability that has been found, CVE number, I'm just scanning through to see if I can see it. Right at this second, I can't. If I spot it in a second, I'll tell you. But it is got a CVSS score of 9.8, which is basically you're going to die in a ditch. If you're using that particular plugin, strong recommendation to patch and update. Now, as always, I'm going to keep saying it. People will eventually remember. I'm sure most of you who listen to this regularly are going to be able to anticipate what I'm about to say. However, WordPress, if you believe that WordPress auto-updates itself regularly, please test that hypothesis, because in my experience, it does most of the time, but not always. And there are lots of scenarios where you may find that certain plugins or themes or whatever don't update automatically in the way that you would otherwise have assumed that they would have done. So always worth a manual prod every now and then. An article from Security Affairs that I came across this morning is showing that some research has identified over 92,000 internet-facing D-Link NAS devices that are vulnerable to a backdoor being tracked as CV 2024-3273. It implements end-of-life D-Link network-attached storage models. The models include DNS 340L, DNS 320L, DNS 327L, and DNS 325. So the vulnerability is in the nas_sharing.cgi URI, and the backdoor is facilitated by hard-coded credentials. So you are kind of in trouble. There's a brief demonstration or screenshots at least of the exploit. Kind of raises two questions. One is why would you put your NAS directly onto the internet? There may be some very solid reasons for doing that, but if there isn't a good business reason for doing that, think about tying it down, because it would be better not to be on the internet. The other one is, I mean, quite frankly, if you're running stuff which is beyond the end of life, you really don't have much sympathy from me. A little, perhaps, but I mean, basically, end of life is an interesting concept, isn't it? We used to have discussions, especially around Cisco kits, as to what constitutes the end of life, because end of life process sort of starts out with an end of sale notification, and then there's an end of mainstream engineering, and there's sort of an end of this sort of patch or that sort of patch, but somewhere in amongst it, there may, if it's hardware like a NAS or whatever, there will be end of hardware support, as in if it blows up, we can't, you won't be able to get it replaced. So the two end ofs that I think made sense, or we came down to agreeing on, was that end of hardware support is one of them, because if this particular system is in production and it blows up, you need to be able to recover it within your your recovery time, recovery point objectives, which is very difficult if the hardware's died and it can't be replaced. Now, it may be that you built other systems around that so that you would recover it to something else entirely. Yeah, okay, fine, that's fine. But end of hardware support was one particularly important end of. The other one is end of security patches. And I think this is the one that worries me most around some of these end of descriptions. I know there is a slight trend for critical patches being backported to otherwise obsolete OSs, and Apple occasionally do this, and I know that Microsoft's done this as well. In the past, but basically, for a lot of applications and a lot of appliances or whatever it may be, as soon as you get to that point where you can no longer get security patches, then you are kind of stuffed. So keep an eye on the end of dates. Sorry, the reason I paused is because for the first time ever, my Mac has just popped up saying it is going to restart my computer rather than would you like to restart your computer, which I think I've interrupted by having some windows open that won't close, but that one caught me out. It doesn't normally do that. It's rather reminiscent of Windows 90 something. Well, no, it didn't actually even patch, did it, in Windows 95? Maybe Vista or something, I can't remember. Anyway, so, right, yes, if you're running old stuff, make sure that you can still get security patches, unless you have very good business reasons for continuing to run it, which you may have, and you've put in place some decent mitigations and you understand the risks to the business, not just the technical risk of end of life, the business risk of what happens if this thing is hacked, what happens if this thing is taken offline, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's something to think about. And then finally from me today, PrivNote secure messaging app is being targeted for phishing at the moment. So PrivNote, which was launched in 2008, so it's been around a while now, I think it was an early adopter of secure encrypted messaging technology. So it kind of you send a message to another user with a unique link, and once the link has been used, the message self-destructs. Now, that's not, we've shown with things like Snapchat, self-destructing stuff isn't completely isn't a complete solution to all privacy issues and confidentiality issues. However, it does mean that there isn't stuff just lying around waiting to get hoovered up in the case of system compromise. However, at the moment there is a target that, well, at the moment PrivNote is a target for phishing, and it's being done through starting out with domain registrations, so typo squatting as much as anything else. There are some known typo squatting sites listed in the article, so I would suggest that you get a playbook or update a playbook within your security visibility tooling that looks for connections out to any of these. There seems to have been a determined effort to make some of these services appear legitimate. So through what's known as deceptive legitimacy, basically, which is attackers effectively spending some time building up their reputation as being legitimate, and then later on engaging in the actions that were the nefarious actions. Also, there has been a certain amount of search engine manipulation. So, for example, when this article was released, which was yesterday, if you were to search for Privnote, Privnote, a Google search would list Tornote.io as the fifth result. Now, Tornote.io is a deceptively legitimate site, but is actually associated with phishing aimed at these particular users. So if you are using this particular solution, or you are thinking of using this particular solution, definitely make sure that you are going to the actual site and not a similar site. And yes, typo squapping. Oh my goodness, I just invented something. Typo squatting does work. Right, that is enough for me for today. No briefing. There'll be no briefing tomorrow. I'm off for a shoulder operation tomorrow, which will take me out for a couple of days. I was trying to get Uncle Rich from the Cyber Agony Uncles to stand in, but he's actually on leave tomorrow. So the briefing will be back, fingers crossed, back from Wednesday this week. So hope you have a good start to the week, and I will